Hi guys, welcome to today's class. Welcome once again. How has your week been? What new thing have you learned? I know the last time we talked about portal navigation. How many of you tried something out? Well, I hope we've been learning and we've been practicing too, because I keep reiterating that that's the only way we can grow. Okay, by practicing and asking the right questions. All right, so let's get into the business of today. For today, we're going to be talking about three things. First of all, we're going to be looking at what we call the 8-point system in UI design. And I'm going to show you how to create a grid system, an 8-point grid system. And also, we're going to be looking at responsive design. So I hope you're excited. So let's get started. So what is an 8-point system in UI design? So the 8-point system in UI design is a layout and spacing system that uses increments of 8 points for defining its margins, paddings, font sizes, and every other measurement, right? And this is like my favorite feature, okay, when I'm designing. I'm always very excited to create a grid system. So it is a grid-based system that provides a consistent and modular approach to designing user interfaces. Now, the concept of this is to break down the design into units of 8 points, creating a framework that is easy to work with. And also it helps to maintain this visual harmony and alignment. This has to be like every designer's favorite too. So I'm going to give you a breakdown of how the 8-point system is typically applied in UI design. Now, first, just like you can see on your screen, spacing and margins. Here, elements and containers are spaced using multiples of 8 points. For example, if you have a button, you want to give it a margin of 8, 16, 24. The same thing if you have a what's it called? A text field. Yeah. You want to give it a padding of maybe 8, 16, or 24 points. That's for the spacing and margins. Now the next thing is font sizes. Now text sizes are also often defined in multiples of 8 points. Okay, that's why you see somebody using Roboto or Inter or Lato. I'm just trying to list out the typefaces that we're familiar with. Montserrat, and then set it to 24 points or 16 points or 32 or 40. Now all of these are increments of 8 points. And this includes heading sizes, body text, and other typographic elements. And the next thing is icon and image sizes. Now, icon and image dimensions are set in increments of 8 points too. And what this does is provide consistency in the visual representation of various elements, right? Personally, when I'm designing for a mobile screen, I like to make sure that my icons, all the icons I make use of on my mobile screen, they are set to, the dimensions are 24 by 24, right? So that's also set in increments of 8 points, right? I hope you're following. You can see that all of these are in multiples of 8. Now, the next thing is what we call grid layouts. The 8 points grid is used to create a modular grid system for layout. So I said I was going to show you how to create this. Now, you're going to notice that when we go into the UI or into practical, you're going to notice that these elements snap to this grid, making it easy for you to align and arrange components in a visually pleasing manner. The next thing here is what we call responsive design. The 8-point system is particularly useful in responsive design. When elements and spacing are defined in multiples of 8 points, it is very easy to adapt the design to different screen sizes and resolutions. Okay, you can adapt it to iPads, desktop, mobile screen sizes, any of these screen sizes, right? And then the last thing is consistency. Or second to the last thing rather, is consistency. Now, the use of this consistent grid system contributes to overall design consistency, right? So elements across different parts of your UI maintains this harmonious relationship, creating a polished and professional look for you. And one of the characteristics of this 8-point system that I am very familiar with, okay, is cross-team collaboration. So when designers make this a standard reference point, even developers and any other team member involved in the projects, they tend to follow along, and it is easier for everyone to understand this grid system. Okay, so we know that all our alignment, all our spacing, all of these things follow one particular system, which is the 8-point system. Okay, and also if we're working in a team of 2, right? Let me say I have a partner. So let's say we're A and B designers, right? And it is very hard to tell apart that I am working on this screen and another person is working on the other screen, because all of us were using the same spacing, same number of spacing, same number of points for our font sizes, images. It would be very hard for you to tell them apart, thereby creating consistency in all the designs. Okay, so this is why the 8-point grid system is very, very important, and I'd advise any designer anytime to try out or to make use of this, right? So with that being said, I'm going to go ahead to show you how to create an 8-point grid system. Okay, so by doing that, we're just going to, let me zoom out. I need a blank canvas for that. So the first thing you want to do is get a desktop frame. Click on desktop here, pick desktop. You can see the dimensions is 1440 for the width and the height 1024. So we have this, and then we also have, we're going to bring a mobile frame. I'm going for the iPhone 13 mini. So yes, how do we start this? Now, the first thing we want to do is create 2 types of grids, horizontal and vertical. Why is that? Because we want to keep our spacing consistent, both horizontally and vertically, right? So I'm just going to go ahead and click on this plus icon, the layout grid. Click on this, and sorry, I did not select my desktop. Okay, click on this and select, for the horizontal, we're going to go with the columns. So I'm going to click on columns here. And we're going to set the gutter to, we're going to set the gutter to 32, so you can have more space to work. Remember that this is a desktop frame. So you can set that to 32. Now the gutter is basically the space between your columns. You can see my cursor. This is the gutter. Okay, the space between your columns. Now the margin is the space from the beginning of your frame to where your column starts. So for this, I'm going to make use of 100. I'm going to make use of 100 for my margin, right? Most people decide to use 70, 50. I mean, depending on how they want the layout of their UI to be, yeah? So how do you know which amount is suitable for your margin when designing for a web or mobile? Well, when it comes to margins, it all depends on your container size. Okay, and what exactly is a container? A container is basically an area that holds your contents. Now let me quickly show you something. I have a design sample here. Just give me some time to load. Okay, so yes, take a look at this design, for instance. Let me go to the very top. So if I select any of these sections, you can see that the width of this container is 970 here. If I go ahead, select this section, my services, the width is 970. The section here, which is called price plans, is still 970. Recommendations is 970. This is 970. Okay, so you can see that they all have the same width. That's how you can make sure you have consistency across your design projects. Now, there are no specifics. It all depends on the type of project you're working on and how narrow you want your content to be. So I personally use 1,240 points. Yes, as my container width, 1,240 points. Yes, that's right. So and for the web, for the mobile rather, I like to use 343 for the mobile, right? Like I said, different designers have different points that they use for their container width. Now, if I calculate that properly, right, I'm going to have 100 for my margin. Okay, 100 for my margin. So even if I want to show you, I'm just going to show you guys what that's going to look like. So this is what I mean by that. You can see that 1,240 points. This is my container width. So every section is going to snap to this margin. It's going to have the same margin. 100 from here, 100 from here. And this allows for consistency across your designs. I'm going to delete that. We're going to go back to this. So we said we want our margin to be 100, our gutter 32 for more space. Now, how about our counts? For the counts, we're going to use 12. Yes, we're going to use 12 for our count. We're going to set this to stretch because we want this to be responsive, right? So with that being said, we have this for our horizontal grid. Better that for our horizontal grid. Now for the vertical, while this frame is still selected, I'm still going to go ahead to hit this plus icon here. But this time, instead of going for columns, we're going to be going for what? Rows. Because we're working on the vertical grid now. And here, we're going to set this to top. Why? Because I want this grid to start from the top. And I'm going to set the count to 1,000. Because when you extend your frame like this, okay, the vertical grid continues down, right? No matter how long you extend it to be. For the offset, we're going to leave it at 0 because we don't need it. And for the height, we're going to use 8. Remember, we talked about the 8-point system. So the height of these guys, they're all 8 points. So for the gutter, I'll set it to 8 as well. Now, when you place a rectangle or any element at all on this, and you try to move it. Let me zoom in on that. You try to move it. You can see that it snaps to the nearest row and column. When we increase the dimension, okay, it again snaps to the nearest row or column. So now that this is done, I can either create a style. Remember we talked about style guide in the last class. I can either click on this plus icon here to create a style, or I can just hover on this, hold on to this, the shift key, select this and select this and hit Ctrl+C to copy. Then I'm going to go ahead to this guy, take this out, Ctrl+V to paste it. Now I've pasted that same grid that I created. But of course, this is a different screen size and something smaller. So we're going to do a little bit of modification to this mobile screen. Okay. So for the mobile, we're going to decrease the column count from 12 to 4. We're going to set the margin. Of course, the margin cannot be 100 here. We're going to set the margin to 16. And we're going to set the gutter to 16 as well. Sorry, 16. Because I want my container weight to be 343, like I mentioned earlier. Okay, so now I'm not sure you've noticed, but almost all my values, okay, all the values I use for these grids, they're all divisible by 8. And the good thing about this grid system is they're responsive, right? You can see this, they're responsive. Let's get set that back to 375. They're all responsive. You can try the same thing with this one. You can see this. They're responsive. So no matter how much you stretch it, the grid system remains, okay? So with that being said, let me set this back to the original. Yeah. So with that being said, lastly, I'm just going to give you a tip for alignments, right? Especially if you're going to be using this type of grid. Remember we mentioned that when you place a rectangle, it will automatically snap to any row or column. Okay. Now when you use your, the arrow keys you have on your keyboard, and you move, right? It automatically moves 1 pixel, right? 1 pixel. And then when you hold on to the shift key, it can either move 10 pixels. I think that's like the usual point, the usual pixel that's actually the amount of pixel it moves for. So now you can actually set it in such a way that if you're making use of this 8-point system, right? You cannot also set it that whenever you hold on to your shift and move any elements, it will automatically move 8 pixels. So let's see how that is done. You just have to go here where you have your main menu at the top left, click on this. For the quick action, just search for notch amounts. Click on this. Okay, you can see this. This allows you to specify your notch amount. So you can see that I set mine to 8 already because I make use of this for almost all my designs, right? So I set this to 8 already. So let's see what we have now. Assuming we decide to duplicate this, right? I'm going to make sure that, okay, we have say 32. No, this is divisible by 8 too. Say 32. Okay, that's the spacing between both of them. Now, if I decide to shift this particular one, I'm going to hold on to my shift key and use the down arrow button, right? And shift this by just one. If you check this, have you seen that? From 32, we now have 40. So that means it moved 8 pixels. So this is the advantage of using the notch amounts or imputing an amount to use, okay, when you're designing. All right, so with that being said, we have this. We've successfully created an 8-point grade system. And you can try this out. I recommend you try this out for all your designs, designing for web or designing for the mobile screens. It will be very helpful. It will help you to make sure that all your elements are rightfully aligned, and also it also gives it this visually pleasing look. Okay, so with that being said, we're going to just go right into it and work on a responsive design, right? So actually, a lot of people prefer to use to start with the mobile. We're looking at mobile responsive design. Most people like to start with the mobile. That's what we call mobile first. Okay. But of course, people are different and these things work differently for different people. I personally, I like to start with the web. It's much easier. So we're going to start with the web now. Or maybe we should just make use of this, guys, instead of getting new screens. So for this web, call this mobile. Okay, so I'm just going to turn this off. Turn this off too. So what I like to do is create a header for my web screens before I start designing. So for today, let's just play around with a travel website, right? And we'll just go with a random name. Maybe we should call it what should we call it? What should we call it? Traveler. I think that works. And let's see. This font looks fine. I think we should use this. So it's voice perfect. So I like to make use of this color. Oh, it's fine. Okay, so what are we going to have? So do we have any suggestions? What's going to be on our header? What items are we going to have? Suggestions. For this one, I like to make use of Rubik. Rubik seems like a nice typeface. Set this to 18. So you can have home, home. You can have blogs. Have contact us. And maybe even an action that says book now. Also, for this one, we're going to make this a button. Reduce this to 16. So, Give me a corner radius, so maybe 20, because I want it to be rounded. Yeah. Increase this horizontal padding from 8 to 16. That gives it enough room. I think that's fine. Okay. We should make this 16. Looking to be, yeah, this is fine. So we're going to select all this, and let's say it has 32. Spacing between them is 32. That looks fine to me. We can still make it 40. More space. I'm just going to go ahead and group that. Now select all of this. Make sure to align it vertically. Right. I think I want this to be 56. Now while we're looking at the 8-point system. Oh, we can just make it 80. And I'm going to group that too. And I'm going to select all of this together. First, make sure that it's vertically aligned. Set this to 180. And that's fine. So let's right click and select this from selection. Okay. So since we're making use of this guy and I want this to fit into our frame. Remember our frame, the width of our frame is 1440. So I'm going to copy this. I want this to be the same thing. Now I can now decide to adjust this to fit this guy. So this guy, let me add a field to that. I'm going to change this to 3. I feel like we should add one more to this guy. It's looking too small. Shift this. Also distribute horizontal spacing 52, add 56. So we're going to call this. Any suggestions? Travels. So it'll be easier if we use auto layouts for this guy. That way we can have just added auto layouts. That way we can have the same number of spacing in between them. Okay, so that's fine. Now we're going to shift this because I want to make sure that it's 100 from, remember we said that our margin is 100 here. So let's make sure that this is 100 from this frame. 67. Keep adjusting. It's 100 now. Same thing with this guy. 100. So now we have, I'm just going to paste this if it's allow. Make sure that this is aligned vertically to this frame. Same thing with this one. So we have this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to call this header and then create a component, add variants. So what's our first version? Let's call this home. And what is home going to look like when it is being selected on? Surely we don't want it to be the same size. So we're going to make this 18 and probably make this medium. And it's going to have a primary color. Add another version. This is blogs. So it's easy when you use auto layouts. All you have to do is just switch places. Change this to home. Change this to blogs. That's the advantage of using auto layouts. I love auto layouts actually. The third variant here is travels. And again, we're just going to switch blogs and words, travels. We're going to do the same lastly too. What do we have here? Contact us. We're just going to switch. Change this to travels. Change this to words, contacts. Perfect. So we have this. I'm just going to copy this. Let's drag it into our frame. Align it to the top. And I can actually decide to add a little bit of effects, you know. Well, this is too much. I think I'll just leave it at 10. Yeah, you can see the effects. So we have our header. And the next thing I want to do is design the hero section. So I'm going to get another frame for that. Place this here. Click on this plus icon to add a field. I want to add an image. I think I got an image for the purpose of this class. I thought the picture looked cool. Hope you think so too. So yes, this is it. I like the footprints on the sides. So we have this. So let's go ahead and design our hero section. But these are just, let's play around. I like to get a rectangle, just place it here. Make sure it's aligned to this frame. And then, you know, we have brown here, right? So I'm just going to go ahead and get a shade of brown. And then reduce the opacity to 10. Okay, I like the effects that this gives. And I'm going to set the corner radius to maybe 20. Looks fine. So suggestions for the header. Remember, we're looking at a travel website. So most people just like to put lorem ipsum, and I don't totally think it's cool. So you can actually make use of AIs to generate copies. Yeah. So for me, I like to make use of copy.ai to generate content for me. So for this one, we're just going to make use of, let's set this to 40 or 48. Let's start with 40. Remember, this is the header, so of course the font text is not going to be small. So we're going to make use of the same typeface that we use for the logo. I think it's called item or item. Sounds like a local name. So we're going to have unleash unforgettable adventures with traveler. And of course, we're not going to allow this to be aligned to the left. So for this one, I think I want this to carry the correct one. It looks fine. And we're going to align it to this rectangle that we have here. Should we increase this or not? It's 40 look okay. Maybe we can try 48. Seems okay. We're just going to take this up a bit. This is 119 from the top. Let's leave it at 80. Remember, increment of 8 points. So this is our header text. Now, of course, we want to add a body text, right? And this is going to carry the other typeface we have for our body text, which is Rubik. And we're going to set this to 24. 24, it's fine. Let's start typing out first. So we can decide that I want this to be discover tailored journeys and seamless services for extraordinary travel experiences. Okay, for that one, I think I'll use an off-white. Still looking to white. Let's go with this. Yeah, that looks fine. So let's see if we have lights, because we don't want it to. Yes, I think this looks perfect. So again, we're going to align, make sure this is aligned, okay, horizontally to this guy. And also check your alignment or your spacing from this guy. Maybe at 32. Yes. And we're going to add a call to action button. Now, what did I say about call to action buttons? What's it going to look like? For the call to action, we want it to be learn more. So another thing you want to do is not place too many call to actions on your landing page, of your website. Okay. Reduce the number of CTAs. Learn more. Going to add auto layouts because of course we want this to be a button. Like this 16. This is what 24. Let's leave it at 18. Zoom in on that. So we're going to add a fill. And a fill to be this. Add corner radius. Remember, rounded. I told you that CTAs look better when they're rounded. Yeah, so you don't confuse it with primary action buttons. So we're going to with corner radius of 20 and increase this to semi-bold so that's, yeah. I don't believe we are making. Okay, so again, we're going to align this. Bottom height looks too small. Let's leave this at 40. That's fine. I'll just increase it a little bit. Now, what's the distance? This is, let's make it 48 or 40. This looks better. So we have this to be our hero section, and it actually looks very nice. So what we're going to have next? What's the next section? I mean, you made use of I don't know how many of you have actually like traveled. Okay. I know that Ibom A has a website. Yeah. So what and what would you possibly see on this website? Okay, what's like the next section? So we're just going to extend this screen down because we're going to have a lot. I think we might actually also design a footer. So let's extend that. So why choose us? Why choose us? I have no idea. So we're going to make use of the same typeface that we use for our header. Why choose us? Was a question. And I like for this section to have another frame entirely. I like for mine to be like that. So what's this frame? I'm going to bring this into this frame. Yes. Align it here. What's the distance from the top? 88. That's a lot. Let's leave it at 40. Or maybe 48 is fine. Now, I don't have content, right? Our time will not permit us to go and start looking for content. So let me just make use of this plugin, Lorem Ipsum, to generate content, or placeholder, rather. So first of all, you want to select the text layer, and we're going to make, what is the typeface we're using for rubric, right? And let's set this to 24. So we want 3 sentences. I think that's fine. And for the sake of contrast or hierarchy, visual hierarchy, this is too dark. I mean, we already have black here as the header text. So I'm going to make this a little bit grayish. Okay. So I'll go for this. Just, sorry, wrap this a little bit, wrap it. And this is fine. This is fine. This is fine. Align it. Check the spacing. I think I want this to be 16. Remember, increment of 8 points. So why choose us? What we're going to have here exactly? Let's think. So we'll probably just get an icon, because here we're going to be listing out, okay, like the features that we're offering. Why do we want you to choose us? What are those features that we have? Why would we want you to leave Ibom Air and, you know, book a flight with us? Do you understand? Because no matter how people try to, I don't know, designers, they don't really take this content thing serious, but it is also very important that you put the right content, okay, on your website, because that's what, drives people to your website. That's what will make people come on your website. So how you craft your content is also very important. So we're just going to get an iconify. Okay, I don't know, plain. What are we going with? Hmm, I think we should go with this. Oops, that's so big. We need to reduce that to 50. Still to be 100, or maybe even 80. Yeah, 80 is fine. So we're going to change the color to the primary color that we have here. I think we should reduce this again. Okay. So we're going to have this, and then what we're going to have as a, I don't know, a title text here. Let's say best travel agency 24. Like this medium. And then we're going to have a body text. Let me just copy this. Like this 16. 10 is fine. That one is too small. Align this to the left. Now, another thing I like to avoid is making my website too wordy. So I'm going to delete some of this. So, okay, this is fine. So, make this 8. Group this and select this. Make sure that they're all left aligned. This is 54. Let's try 40. 40 still looks big. I'm going to get it to. This is fine. So, we want to, do frame selection so that this is a frame. And then I decide to increase this or increase the contents. First of all, I want to add a field to that. So that's on this. Maybe 16. So I'm going to change this to off-white. So that is white, yeah. Okay, so this is 16 to So yeah, so we're just going to increase this because this allowing it's giving too much space or room in between them. So we're going to make this let's say 350. I'm gonna adjust this. If it's all good, this guys. Select both of them, make sure it's aligned. I'm going to delete this. And because we've increased this is just going to come out of it. Make this 16 because they're obviously too close to each other. Spacing too. We're going to leave this at 8. Okay, so we're going to duplicate this. Now remember what we said our margin was 100. This is 117. So let's say this to 100. Make sure that this is 100 from this side. So 100. And then make sure that this is perfect. So we have this right results. Okay. So what's the next thing we could possibly have? Let's grab a rectangle. Let's say here. Let's say it's 100 from this side. And as always, never forget another frame. Now this frame is inside this one. So let's take it out. Bring this rectangle into this frame. Align it and let's give it a corner radius of 20. Now we're going to use the plugin on Splash to add an image to this. Where is on Splash? It's not here. So plugins on Splash to get an image. We're just going to let it load. Okay, and we're going to search for travel, anything that is related to travel. Let's see what's we come up with. So we go with this. I think this is perfect. So just going to select this. Okay. So I personally like to add like a dark overlay over the picture so it's not too bright. I see the difference now. So we're just going to have, I don't know, maybe a text that says, so for this one now, we'll have this, let's align. 100, make sure it's 100, make sure it's 100. Always check your, I can just say, We offer excellence. And then maybe this time we're going to have it's a share button. Says learn more. If we have a lot of that, learn more. I think we should have read more this time. Hundred. Okay. Then let's select. Sorry about that. Select all of this. Group it and then make sure that it is vertically aligned. Okay. So this guy. Let's take that up a bit. I use 40 for the other one. I think 48. So we're going to bring this here. We have to reduce this to 600. So it's not so big. Yes, this is perfect. And 100. So, okay. So we have this. Now, because of time, we're just going to quickly create a footer. And then we're going to go over to the mobile screens. So for this, what do you even want this footer to look like? So first of all, let me just copy this. What's the name of our website again? Traveler. Make sure that its margin is 100. What else do we want to have? This, let's reduce this 16. Okay. And probably want to have, I don't know, service. Regular. Then have this one to be 18. And so I have this to be travel. Travels. Let's just keep deleting. Whenever we stop, we can delete the rest. We call these bookings. Let's have suggestions, please. Call these blogs. Contacts. So they'll have dates in between them. We just need to put that. And then we're going to get icons for social media. So we have Facebook. Okay, let's put that right. I think I want a certain level of consistency. Twitter. What else? IG, Instagram. So yes, let's get a circle. This is too big. Let me make it 80. And then give it this color. This 48. Give it white. Bring to front. Make sure it's aligned to this. Box. Then for this one, 48. Very white. Bring to front. And then select both of them. Align horizontally, align vertically. Do the same thing for this guy. 48. Right. Bring to front. Align vertically and horizontally. I'm just going to put that. Put these two. So select all of them. Make sure that they have, this is 32, 35 rather, correct 32. Make sure it's aligned with them. 100. It actually looks big too. Maybe we should use, let's try 64. I think that's fine because this is looking big. Present constraint that on make it 64. That's the thing about being a designer. You need to be able to, take a step back and look at what you've done. Okay, some items, some elements may need to be or too small. Okay, the ability to actually see that and make a change is what every designer should have. So I'm just going to go ahead and run that one right back. Remember, we're looking at 100. But this is fine. So what's this person from here? It's like 102. Let's make it maybe 48 since we use 48 for the rest. 8. Put this, take it off a bit. Let's take this bucket bit too. 48 too. And then I'm just going to, let's say we decide to add a line. So it's easier to give this. Remember we said our container width is what? 1240, yeah? So we could just draw this line. Follow the red line to make sure you're parts. And then we just like to put 1240 here. So we already know that that's our width and align this. So we can still go ahead and check 100, 100 to on track. Okay, and one thing I like to avoid is too many decimal points. Okay, is that I round them off. We did this in mathematics in secondary school. Is that I round them off? I just removed decimal points. Okay, because that could mess up alignment and spacing. So this is what's 9, making 48. Yeah. And I'm just going to gray out this line. That's fine. What else? What are we going to have here? I mean, you guys have seen websites like this, so usually what terms of use, terms of use, terms of use and words. I think there's 2 of them. Which are these stats here? Let me try it. Perfect. Privacy policy. Terms of use. There's always another one at the left. Who knows what it's called? All right. Reserve. We have our footer. So we're just going to go ahead and replicate this for the mobile. And of course, discipline, we're going to decide that this is going to look this way, it's going to look that way on our design. So let's go ahead and try something. Okay, so let's do this. So you know how you use you open up your website on your mobile screens and then everything is just looking too big. Is that the buttons are looking too big and like, okay, what's going on? I know somebody that likes to jokingly say that um either the developer or the designer wants the users to use his or her forehead. Okay, to click on the button. Okay, jokes aside. Yeah, so what are we doing here? The first thing you want to do is get, you're going to have a header too for this guy, obviously. Only the difference is this is mobile. So what's it going to look like? And so take out this, make it 10. And what are we going to have here? Is it going to be the same thing? So when it said navigation menu, okay. So we're going to get what our icon and select menu here. We'll go for this one. Just place it here. So remember I said that for my container width, I like to use 343. So that means my margin is 16 here. So I'm making use of 16 for this one, just like we made use of 100 for the web. So let's make use of 16 here. Now we're going to have our logo. What's our logo? Traveler. So let's copy that. Of course, it's not going to be that big, is it? 24 looks okay. Lost it. Where did they go? Let's copy that again. Okay. 16. That looks okay. So this is what's the usefulness of this navigation menu here, or hamburger menu as some people call it. What's the usefulness of it? Right? It's contain all of these guys. Okay. And what I like to do so that we don't keep the developer guessing is make sure that I list them out. Okay. So I'm just going to list them out here. What did we have there? Home. Let's reduce this to 20. Home. What else? We have home, blogs, travels. So I'm just going to do this. Add auto layouts, right? I'm going to just select this. Sorry. It's this. It's this. Duplicate this. Select all of them. Add auto layouts to all of them. Then add a few. Then I'm just going to select all of this text and make it change the color so that you can see it. Yes, so we had home words, blogs, travels, and what? Contacts. Contactors. Okay. We can even call this menu best practices so you don't keep anyone guessing. Okay, and then we're going to go ahead and get our frame. We're just going to do this quickly because we barely have any time left. Add a few. Add image. Same image. And then I'm just going to get this same guy, just drag it out here. What did we say our container split is? Who remembers? 343. Yes, so we're just going to get that and put it here. We use this corner radius because I don't like when a rectangle has too much of it. So I'm just going to reduce this to 10 because this is a different screen. Yeah. And then get our header. So for the header, of course, it's going to change for mobile. It cannot be this big, obviously. It cannot be this big. So we're going to reduce this to 24 and put it in. So we have to reduce this. Have to reduce this. We'll make it 20. Yes, this is better. Okay. We still have to reduce this frame shot. So let's just keep going. Like this guy here. This time this is going to be 16. Wrap it. This is brackets 16. And then you have to reduce this. And then just close it. Okay, so we're going to have our button. And this is going to change to 16. What it is about. So we have this for the hero session, and then we're just going to quickly run this because we really have time. And this is going to change to 24 because this is a mobile screen. And this to 16. I'm going to make this 343 because that's our container width. We even have to reduce the content, so and then for this one, how is this going to be displayed, horizontally or vertically? So container 343. This will be much better if it's aligned to the center, right? Yes. Yes, I think I'm properly. So make this 14, then duplicate this. Two is fine. It's this again. We have this. So best practices. We're still going to add a frame to this, like we did for the web. So yeah. So we have that. And lastly, let's show this. We're going to design for this guy. Let's add another frame to this. We offer excellence. Do you think the picture should come first or the text? Picture, text, picture, text. This should come first. Container width. Don't ever forget. Reduce the corner radius. 16. Of the text. So this text. This is going to be what we said 24, right? And then this one 16. So just going to take this here. There's a space. Remember what I said about decimal points? I'm going to take this out. If it is up to, if it is 0.5 or 0.5 and above, I like to round them up. Let's make this 24. And then we're going to get the body text, align this to the center. Make this 343. That's our container width. So 16. Bring this in here. Okay, 24. What I think about it, I think it should be 16. Yeah, that's perfect. So we're just going to add another frame to that, because that's another section. We could add a frame to this. Yes. We're going to add all of this into this frame. And that's it. Yes. So adjust this to this frame. This is 83, and that's a lot of space. 48, I think that's what we were using. So we have that. And the last thing we're going to be designing for is the footer, right? So I'm going to get another frame for that. That's the last thing. What we call it again. Go in this place. Okay, so we're going to add a field. This is our footer now. So what's this going to look like? How are we going to display this? Any ideas? Well, bring this here. This is going to be 24. Let's make it 32. 16, still 16. But this time center aligned. 3. Bring this frame out. You should be conscious of this. Frame is sticking out. No, not that frame. The dupe. So let's bring this into the frame. It's 8, yes. 48. Let's say we have 40 because that space already looks too much. So just okay. Maybe we should make this 14. Let's zoom in. What else are we going to have? Service. But this time we probably want this to be all aligned towards. Sorry about that. All aligned to the center. Like this. It has 8 in between them. So and then these guys can actually reduce it because this is mobile. So you can make this 48. Make this 48. Select all of them and start to reduce the spacing between them. Yep. Bring this closer. Say maybe 48. And then we're going to have our line. Remember, container with 343. Line that. And then we're going to have our text. All right, reserve. We're going to have this, guys. Here. This is 16. This should be 16 from this side too. Make it up a bit. Perfect. So we have a footer. So another best practice here, when you're designing like this and you want your footer to remain constrained to your layer, this is what you do. And you want this to be constrained to the left and at the bottom. Yeah. So this is what happens. Even when I try to extend my screen, see, the footer stays. So I can actually add other sections here and my footer stays here. Okay, the same thing applies to the web. Decide to do this, and let me just make sure that this, sorry about that, because I already selected that. Let me just remove it first. Sorry. Let me undo all of that. Yes, much better. So now this is our footer. Constrain it left bottom. Now watch what happens when I select different and extend. So I can decide to add another section. Okay, my footer remains. So we come to the end of today's class. And I hope you learned a lot. So take note of all what we said in class today, the sizing elements to make use of it in the mobile, because the different nuggets have the same sizes. So take note of all of this because it's going to appear your promotional task. And you're going to do a lot more than this. So thank you very much for staying to the end of today's class. Have a nice day.